The last 2 years in Oklahoma gardening, we've talked about the Hellebore, or the Christmas rose, like we've got right here. We talk about how it's a very tough perennial, very long-lived, related to the peony. Flowers last for a few months, and it will tolerate more shade than any other flowering perennial. The deer don't even like eating its foliage. But what I want to tell you about today is this bright yellow flowering early spring perennial right here. This is the Celandine Poppy. I just love those bright yellow flowers. This plant is another one that blooms early in the year, starts blooming early in March, and just really brightens up the shady spots in the garden. These are native to the southeastern United States, and its native range doesn't quite reach Oklahoma, but close. Just 2 counties over in Arkansas, we find these growing. But you bring them over here and plant them in a shaded location, give them a mulch to protect them and keep them a little bit cool in the summer, and they do great in the springtime. Now, if you don't water these, they will go dormant in the summertime, but we keep the irrigation on these, and we have this foliage around throughout the year. These are actually in the poppy family, so they are a poppy, the Celandine Poppy. They have a little bit of a yellow sap inside the leaves, and this is a chemical that was used at one time by some of our Native American tribes as a yellow dye. But the Celandine Poppy, a wonderful choice for the early shade perennial garden. Other choices when it comes to perennials for the shaded garden are the coral bells, or Heucheras. The plants that have the green foliage usually have the showier flowers like this one. This is Cherries Jubilee with these red and pinkish colored flowers. Right here we've got one called Plum Pudding. It's got the darker foliage and also has pale pink flowers. Now we also have some other wonderful foliage varieties of the coral bells. We've got one over here with golden foliage called Amber Waves. Now its flowers aren't that colorful, but the foliage is absolutely stunning in the shaded garden. So you might think about planting some of these coral bells or Heucheras in your shade landscape. Another shade perennial that blooms a little bit later than the Celandine Poppy is this plant, the Chinese hardy orchid. And I'd have to say that this is one of my favorite shade perennials. They come in white and also this purple lavender-like color. These plants, or orchids, are terrestrial type orchids. You'll remember on Oklahoma Gardening last summer, we featured some of our Oklahoma native orchids, the yellow fringed orchid from down in the southeastern part of the state. It's also a terrestrial orchid like the Chinese hardy orchid. But this is a wonderful plant. Once the flowers have faded, you can trim those faded flower stalks and then enjoy this pleated strap-like foliage the rest of the year. Now occasionally, if these come out early, they can get nipped back by a little bit of frost. Sometimes the early buds will get burned by frost, but this year we've got a wonderful display of these plants. Now occasionally you'll also see these come in colors of sort of a creamy yellow color, and they're also variegated varieties. These can be divided in late summer or fall. The Chinese hardy orchid, wonderful perennial for the shaded garden.